Welcome, fellow Stardust. Are you ready for a scare? Happy Halloween, Stardust, and welcome back to the continuation of my Spooktober Special. Today, we'll be talking about some of my favorite disturbing movies, along with the favorites of some of my friends, some very special returning guests. I'll be joined by Anthony of Fever Dreamland Theater, John of Grande's Graveyard, and Dice Rollen. With 20 films between the four of us, I'm sure there's something that you haven't seen that you can watch this spooky season. Well, without further ado, let's jump right in.
So today we're going to be talking about our top 5.
Okay, real quick, let me pause this video. This was supposed to be a top 5 countdown, you know, where you count down from 5 to 1. But that doesn't happen. Instead, I count from 1 to 5. My guests were counting down to their number 1 disturbing film. But when I give out numbers, they are all over the place. So please disregard the confusion. Okay, let's continue.
Disturbing movies, and we'll start with John. What would be your first movie on the list?
So when you initially posed this question, a lot of obvious ones came to mind. So I wanted to do some ones that were a little bit different. So I went to the great land of Japan for the first one right here from the year 2001. And this is Suicide Club. Yes. Suicide Club, which to me is a really brilliant little movie that, of course, talks about the horrors of peer pressure. And it basically takes place in this small, like, middle school, high school. And basically what happens is these kids, in order to fit in, start following a trend. And the trend is not your normal, you know, eating Tide Pods or, you know, cutting your hair a certain way. This trend is to yourself, and it is just as crazy as it sounds, and it is really a horror movie that pulls no punches and has some of the craziest, most over-the-top gore and deaths, and really disturbing movie from a psychological standpoint, because, you know, we look at the fads that have happened in society and stuff like that, you know, whether it be the whole, I remember the Justin Bieber thing when people saw he did pot and what they did to themselves, and, you know, how crazy society can kind of fold or move in order to try to fit in with a trend. So I think this is a really good, like, psychological, disturbing horror movie about, you know, the horrors of fitting in. And I don't know, I always really liked this one. Suicide Club is super underrated, in my opinion. Highly recommend if you haven't seen it.
Yes, I definitely want to see it. When I saw it on your list, I was curious, so I looked it up, and it's on Apple. And just that first image, that cover image of the girls lined up on the train station, the track just ready to jump, I'm just like, whoa, I need to check this out. But I just haven't had the time. In your list, though, I've only seen 2 movies on your list, so all of these I'm super excited to check out. You've always just got really cool list in every topic that I see you involved in. So yeah, has anybody seen Suicide Club? Because I sure have.
Heard about it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Great pick. Yeah, I cannot wait to check that one out. All right, Dice, what is your first film?
My first, least disturbing, perhaps, in my eyes. I guess depends on how much religious trauma you have. But The Exorcism of Emily Rose.
Yeah.
And as the title suggests, it's about Emily Rose. She gets possessed somehow. Nobody really knows how. And we pretty much see the whole process. Whatever you get from The Exorcist, this seems like it's amped up quite a bit. And I give a lot of props to our lead actress, because all of the, like, body contortion that she does, that was her, and they had to cut out at least one thing that was way too disturbing to show, and I'm extraordinarily curious to know what the fuck that was. Because it's treated very, like, real, if you will, as real as an exorcism, I suppose, could be, depending on your perspective, but it feels almost crime noir in a way. Right. Very gritty, very grim, gloomy.
Yeah. It's been a while.
Happy ending.
Yeah. It's definitely been a while since I've seen that one, but I remember liking it because it had the horror plus the courtroom aspect crime thing, which I love. So, but yeah, I wish I had time to watch everybody's films on everybody's list, but I remember watching this one and liking it. And yeah, just thinking about that sort of thing happening to you just, as a trip.
Dude, great point on Jennifer Carpenter too. She's wonderful in that movie, and like I would agree with Rainbow. I love the courtroom aspect of it, and Laura Linney. Like it almost feels like two different movies. It's like this is the drama element, and then you get your horror elements, and like there are the certain sequences where she's in the classroom and she'll like see somebody and their face is all distorted, and she's like, "What the heck?" And I think that movie is really disturbing on the fact that it's really the breakdown of someone who went from so like squeaky clean good, like the religious upbringing and, oh, mama, will you let me go to school? And, it's really, it feels like almost something out of Wizard of Oz, but if Oz was, a dark, twisted, exorcism needing place, and she just turns, it's really sad to see her slip away. And what's going on. I mean, they tell you basically at the start of the courtroom drama, she's not going to make it. So, I mean, it's still, though, it somehow works. Like, I think her performance is really key, and the direction from, I believe, Scott Derrickson, right? Did Exorcism. So he went on to do so many good movies. So I don't know. I definitely think that's a really good directed movie too. Good choice.
Yeah. I also love the way they just blended everything between the courtroom drama and the actual exorcism thing, like you guys already mentioned. That was handled like really well, and it was just a dark, legitimately eerie atmosphere. It was really, really well done. That was Jennifer Carpenter, you say, right? Was that like, I'm trying to think if that was her before or after Dexter, or during, I know she was a big part of Dexter.
I think before. She was really young. She was playing like a teenager in it.
Okay, yeah. So and I just remember her being excellent for her part in that. So yeah, excellent pick.
Wonderful. Awesome. All right, Anthony, what's your first pick?
My first pick. All right. Well, they let me have paper in here. They're treating me very well here. They really are.
They give you a different jacket too. You don't have to.
They allow glasses. They're just really kind.
Very lenient place.
My first pick. I'm gonna go with a movie from 1970 called The Wizard of Gore. Not sure if any of you guys have ever seen this. This was from 1970. This was directed by the godfather of gore, Herschel Gordon Lewis. Basically, this is a very gritty exploitation film that I think I saw it, or I rewatched it about a year ago in relation to a stream that Terrence did for that was similar for like disturbing films. And basically what it's about is a stage musician who mutilates his volunteers very severely through a series of merciless routines. Anyone, just curious, maybe Grande, you might have seen this one, right?
Probably Grande.
Probably. And by probably we mean hell yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think I noticed when you asked me about this concept of like your most disturbing films, and I went through my list, and I'm like, I think the thing that connects a lot of mine, spoiler alert, is going to be torture. That's a thing that I can't quite get past, and I do find that to be very disturbing in films. And this is a film that has like torture and a lot of lingering on butchering people, and there's something about that I can't quite stomach. One thing I will say about this, and a commenter, I don't want to take funny credit for this because it's floating around on YouTube as of right now on Halloween.
Yes.
As of right now on Halloween. Hopefully. But anyway, it's on YouTube. And one of the people in there commented that they said, quote, they spared no expense when it came to the ragu, ravioli, and beef marinara sauce gore effects. And I tend to agree. If you've seen this movie, you'll know what that comment means, because the gore it's very over the top, but you can sort of tell that they're working with some, very bright, gooey things. And that almost helps in a way, because you're like, okay, I can be slightly separated from this. It doesn't look too realistic when we start digging around and cutting people up and getting to all of that awful stuff. Whereas one of the other movies on my list, I feel like the gore is more realistic, and that makes it even more disturbing. So this is my pick, and I think it's this is a weird one. This one isn't for everybody.
This is another one that I definitely want to check out. I did find it on YouTube, but again, didn't have the time, but it looks interesting. It's the only one on your list that I haven't seen, so I'm excited to check it out.
Yeah. Some of my other ones are kind of mainstream, so I figure most everyone has seen some of the other ones, but that's sort of the odd one out. So that would be one of my number 5, I guess, for disturbing picks.
What are your thoughts on it? Yeah, Grande.
I really like it. I'm a big Herschel Gordon Lewis fan, like I always was. I love Blood Feast and what was it, 2001 Maniacs, just so many great little movies that he did. And I would agree with Anthony. It's nice that you almost know that it's fake. Like the effects are so bad they're laughable, but the ideas and the time, he was really the first guy to do that, like, and to really just shock people, and you always hear all these fun stories of people running out of the drive-ins, or these critics writing these reviews that were just, oh, this is trash, this is awful, and Herschel was like, hey, it draws money, red equals green, and that's really what Herschel Gordon Lewis did. And Wizard of Gore is really cool too, because the whole magician aspect, like it's the whole, like, we're putting on a show type of thing. And I don't know, I really like, I know they remade it with Crispin Glover as the lead part, which it was not a bad remake at all. I thought it would stink, but when you're remaking something like a Herschel Gordon Lewis movie, odds are you can probably pull it off. The charm isn't there, the charm isn't the same, but you can definitely pull it off. So I don't know, I think that's a good pick. I wouldn't have thought, I'm shocked, like that's a curveball coming from you, bro. I'm trying to see the next four if that's number 5.
No, my next 4, you've seen. I can bet most all of you have probably seen my next 4. They were a little more they were a lot more mainstream. We'll just put it that way.
Fair enough. Good
Still
pick.
disturbing though. Still very disturbing.
Yeah, still disturbing.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, my first film is probably the least disturbing on my list, and that's going to be Tusk, one of my absolute favorite films just in general, which at first for me, I didn't really consider it a disturbing film, but I had started to see it on a bunch of different disturbing lists. And I'm like, okay, I could see how it could be disturbing to think about being turned into a walrus and then, being left at a sanctuary.
Yeah. That is not a good weekend.
Not at all. Yes, they showed it mercy, I guess. I don't know, but yeah, it is pretty disturbing seeing different parts from different people be put together to make one human walrus. And I just really love the Black comedy in this one. I just crack up every single time when I watch it, especially when he finds out that his leg has been cut off. That wheelchair scene is one of my favorite scenes in the whole movie. Just how coy Howard Howe is, and then just Justin Long is just perfect in this movie, and all the horrors that he's in, he's perfect. But Tusk is just one that I will always defend whenever I hear people talking shit about it. I love it.
I'm sorry in advance if you ever see any of my streams making fun of that movie. I'm so sorry in advance.
I probably saw it in passing, but forgot it. It's like, oh, he's my friend. It's okay. He can talk shit.
You're
about
always the best sport. You're always a great sport. You're like, oh, Grande, crapping on another movie I like. You're like, you're entertaining. But yeah, Tusk, oh my God. Oh my goodness. It wasn't the whole idea of this too, like they were high recording Smodcast and someone like wrote that in, and then he was like, all right, I'll get $3 million and we'll make this. And they did.
Yeah.
It was like a spitball thing that they went, okay.
Right? Yeah. So, and he's been toying with a sequel for a while. I'm like, all right, Kevin Smith, let's go. What are you going to do, though? Is it going to be a whole new story? Are we going back to Wallace? What's the deal? But I'm down to see what he would do. Because, it was basically a fake Craigslist ad, or the version of Craigslist ad somewhere in England. And they've just found it. And then just started spitballing, like you said, on his podcast, just making up more to the story. Like, hey, why not make this movie? And I just love that. And it turned out to be a masterpiece, y'all.
I could see the poster. It would just be Tusk and then the two teeth. Yeah. It's just Tusk 2. Like,
oh yeah, there we go.
I will say this, like, it definitely, the idea of, like, we all do, a podcast or a show or streams or whatever we do. Like, when you meet people outside, me and Anthony have met a few times and go to the movies and hang out. You never know, though. It may seem like, oh, Michael Parks, why not? This person may just want to turn you into a walrus. So you really never know what's behind closed doors and what.
That's why you don't go behind them.
Yeah.
Do not enter. Ever.
That's why me and Anthony, after the restaurant, all right, buddy, see you. Don't turn me into a walrus now.
That's for next time.
I appreciate you not turning me into a walrus, by the way, Anthony. It's one of my favorite things about our friendship.
That was too good, Anthony. That was too good. You had that ready.
I watched, not Walrus. I watched Tusk by renting it from my library at one point.
Oh, wow.
I think it was before I started YouTube, so it was before I really started to get into horror. So, wow. Afterwards, I was like, okay.
You were pretty young too, right? You were basically a kid that long ago.
Sure, we were young. We were younger. Yeah.
Youngish, yeah.
Youngish. Yeah.
So, do you like it? I can't tell. You like it? Don't like it?
I like it.
Okay.
Probably not as much as everybody else. I wouldn't necessarily say it's one of my favorites, but I'll still look at it like, my God, this is a very creative concept, very disturbing, and yet you somehow managed to throw this interesting little twist of humor in there.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I see what you're doing. Okay.
Yes. All right. Well, let's move on to our second movie. John, what is your second pick?
So I know a lot of people, when you make a list like this, they point to a little movie called Last House on the Left. The original it's one of my favorite movies of all time, but a little lesser talked about, but as time has gone on, it's gotten a little bit more buzz, and I'm going to give it a little buzz here, was this movie from the year 1980 and director Ruggero Deodato, who, of course, made one of the most, if not the most disturbing horror movie in Cannibal Holocaust the same year. He took, of course, the lead actor from Last House on the Left, lead heel actor David Hess, and one of my favorite Italian names to say, Giovanni Labaradici, in this little movie, House on the Edge of the Park. I'm going to hold it up here. House on the Edge of the Park. To me, one of the best home invasion movies. It basically tells the story of these two guys. They're car mechanics, and these kids, they drive their car in there, and they're like, hey, our car is busted for the night. We're trying to go to this big party. And the whole idea is they want to go boogie because it's 1980, goddammit, and everyone's wearing these yellow, bright jackets and things. and the idea is David Hess says, hey, you don't have enough money, but if you let me and my friend go to the party, we'll pardon it, you know? So they say, okay. And they drive David Hess and Giovanni Labaradici to the party. And basically what happens is David Hess gets a little too carried away with himself, starts having a little too much fun, and basically takes this party by storm and starts torturing these people with a switchblade. And I think it's just a masterclass. If you want to see great acting and how great and talented David Hess was, he made a career playing this role, whether it be Last House on the Left, whether it be Hitchhike, whether it be this movie, House on the Edge of the Park. I always thought this was just such a disturbing film. The scene to this that absolutely disturbed me to my core was there's this girl that shows up like unannounced to the party. Oh, you're partying without me? And she's not aware of what's going on, that he's taken over. And she kind of goes, he's like, oh, sit with me. And he basically just like, I won't go too far into it, but he basically does some horrible things to her with the switchblade while singing like a preschool song to her. And I don't know why, that just always disturbed the hell out of me. I was like, when you take something so raw and gritty and dark, and I'm going to sing a song the 4-year-olds sing to you, it's just, to me, horror done perfect. I love that. Hence why I did a short called Down by the Bay. But yeah, no, I love this movie. I think this is a really, really underrated gem. David Hess at his best. And I don't know, I really like this. Disturbing little flick.
Definitely got to check that one out myself too. And it's my absolute favorite when you have something so brutal next to or juxtaposed to a sweet sounding lullaby type song. I love that shit too. It's the best.
Yeah.
I'm also reminded of is it Clockwork Orange has a Singing in the Rain.
Yes.
And you can't, it's very difficult to ever hear that song again without the Kubrick film. Reservoir Dogs has a great scene where the guy's getting his ear cut off too. And I forget the actor's name, but he's dancing and doing his thing while
Michael Madsen, yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah. So those kinds of scenes, you're right. Yeah, that juxtaposition is brilliant whenever you have something horrific going on and this otherwise cheery music or songs or in this, in the case of the film that Grande is talking about, like what was like a nursery, a child song?
He sings, I don't know if it is a nursery. It's like, Cindy, oh, Cindy, I'll be homeward bound. I don't know if that's a real song or not, but it oh my God. I remember when I first saw it, I was like shivering. I was like, this is, wow, I shouldn't be watching this. But in a good way.
I'd throw Deep Red in there too, with their like Children's Lullaby or whatever it is. They
La
talk about
la
it in the
la
movie,
la 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 la. I love Deep Red's a great movie. I love Deep Red. Good call.
Really?
Profondo Rosso. If you want to do the
Yeah.
Italian version, it's fun to say things in Italian and do this while you do it.
I got 1% Italian. I'm going to exploit the hell out of it.
There you go. Nice. All right, guys. So what is your second pick?
My second pick is one that I think actually kind of fell off the radar for a little bit after it had come out, but it was talked about a decent bit in 2019, and that's The Lodge.
Oh, hell yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
So,
Edit that out. I'm so sorry. That's my favorite horror movie of that year, though.
Really? Wow.
Yes. I
Okay.
love that movie.
it's
All right.
justly so. I mean, it's a very good horror movie. You might not even necessarily see it as a horror movie immediately, but the more that you kind of think about it, it's a horror movie. It combines a lot of things that I'm terribly not fond of, which would be complete isolation in this Arctic situation. But essentially, you have, I guess, girlfriend, fiance. Yeah, so of this father who has 2 kids, and he decides it would be a great idea after the game ending of his previous wife to have them all go to this lodge in the middle of winter and neglect to mention to his 2 terribly uneducated children that their new mom is going to have some problems, some psychological problems. She's got a lot of issues with previous cult situations, and that did not end well for anyone except for her. And even then, there's residual issues there that are brought up by the kids because they don't like her. Really well.
Yeah, I adored it. I think that's a great pick. I saw that in a movie theater, and it was like February of 2020. So for me, it's a 2020 horror movie. So it's like that year, I because that was right before the world shut down. Really, I mean, that was late February, and then March everything closed. So that was one of the last movies I saw in the theater horror wise for a long time. And I remember the whole crowd at the end. People were openly heckling it, like, "Boo! That's bullshit." I was sitting there like hiding my face because I was like, I loved this. I thought, oh man, I love that movie. I won't spoil the ending, but it has a twist in it that you won't see coming. At least I didn't see it coming. I don't know. Did you see it coming, Dice Rollen?
Not really, to be quite. I always hope for like some possible good ending, but I kind of figured in this situation we probably weren't going to get one.
Definitely
So I was
not.
like, yeah, okay, yeah, of course that, right, okay.
Yeah, I felt kind of dumb. Like a few of my friends were like, "Oh, I saw it coming 4 minutes and 50 seconds." I'm like, "Yeah, right." But
I mean, they even got it down to the seconds. I actually haven't seen it yet, so that's why I appreciate streams like this, because I'm putting that on my list, and I love a good twist ending. Although I also don't want to hold up conversation. If you do want to discuss the twist or whatever, go by all means, go ahead. But
I don't know.
I'm curious about this one. So
That's
I want
Dice
to.
Rollen's call. Her pick. Her call.
I say keep it quiet.
Okay, so let's go ahead and move it on to Anthony. What's your second pick?
Okay, I am going to go with one that, geez, you know what? It's funny. Okay, I'm going to go with one. It's called Creep. It's from 2004. Now, I'm a little rough on this one because I haven't seen it probably since 2004, but this one stuck with me. This one was written and directed by Christopher Smith. It follows a woman locked in the underground overnight. She later finds herself being stalked by a hideously deformed killer who lives in the sewers below. This movie was just quite the nightmare experience for me. I think I watched this late one night, again, back in maybe 2000. Well, it had been on cable, so I'm going to say maybe 2005, 2006. There is one, and again, going back to the torture thing, there is one particular scene where there's a woman strapped to a table and she can't move, and I don't want to get too grisly, but it goes very bad, and it's hard to watch. It's another one of those scenes that's hard to watch, and it's probably one of the reasons why this movie sticks out in my mind as being quite disturbing. But that aside, there's also just the villain himself, who's just this horribly deformed mutant monstrosity that we never quite get a fix on who he is or what exactly is going on. And again, this is just a great film because of the environment. It's a sewer, it's the underground, and there's just something about that like Dice was saying earlier, there's definitely a sense of isolation throughout this film, and you just want this, anyone who ends up down there having to face this mutant monster, you just want them to escape, but it's a horror movie, so there is no escape. That's just by the laws of horror. There's no escape. This is definitely like, this would be, I guess, my number 4 pick for most disturbing films. Creep.
Have you seen this one, Grande?
I have seen it. It's been a while though, so I really don't have much I could add. I apologize. If I knew, I maybe would have tried to watch it, but you know what? It's Rocktober season, so I'm gonna have to give it a ghoulie gander now.
Yeah, I thought about, sharing the lists with everyone, but I was like, I'm not gonna make y'all feel obligated to watch maybe 15 movies or 10 movies or whatever. I just figured this would be cool too, just to, like Anthony said, learn about something new and then be able to watch it during the spooky season.
Do your homework.
Yes. All right. So now we're going to move on to my second pick, and that is 2011's Human Centipede 2, directed by Tom Six. I loved the first one.
We're not going to get out of this without hearing somebody mention a Human Centipede. I'm sorry for interrupting, but
no, please.
Feel free to cut this out.
But the first one was great. So when I saw the second one come out, I was like, oh, yes. And of course, it made the first one look like, a comedy, comparatively, because it was just that much more depraved. And I just love how they chose to do it in black and white. But even with all the blood and the poop and stuff, it felt right with the way that everything just, was giving. It was just, could smell things, you could feel things. We didn't need to see it all, because we could just sense it all. And I just love how we start out with the ending of the first film. And then we see that this, parking attendant is watching the film as the credits roll, and he's just obsessed with it. And we see him with his little scrapbook with, images from the movie and pictures of the actors and things. And he wants to do this himself. And unfortunately, he's not mentally all there. He's a little slow, and he lives at home with his abusive mother, who hates him because basically his father, was sent away because he abused him, his child. So he's just in this abusive world, and his outlet is this violent movie that he basically wants to reenact. And so we see him go through this, and he wants to make this 12-person centipede 4 times bigger than the original.
Better.
Yes. And we just see him go to work, and like I said before, it's in black and white, and it's just a nice little touch there at the end when he gets everybody to shit themselves. We've got the shit that is brown just spewing everywhere. And
Brown.
it's brown with the black and white. Yes. I'm like, okay, that's a decision. And I love the first and second one. Third one, I can do without. It's funny. It's good to just complete that little trilogy, but I could go without watching it again. But to rank them, I would do 2, 1, 3.
I remember seeing the second one in a theater in the city. It was an IFC center in the Village in New York City, and it was like a midnight screening. And I remember it was the perfect way to see that movie because you're in New York with all these weird people. And then this movie comes on, and it's just, oh my! I think it's like one of those movies. It's trying so hard to offend, and it's successful. Because his whole idea was, he was like, I want to make the first one look like a Disney movie. Like that was his whole quote. And yeah, it's disturbing for sure. It's weird though. Like those movies now, I don't know how well they've aged for me. Like it's almost, I look back now, I'm like, it's almost like disco. It's like, why do we like that? Like, why do people like that? And then that's how I am now. Like, I think those movies came out, I was in middle schoolish. And I remember we were all on the bus stop talking about, Human Centipede. And now I'm just like, yeah, it's there. It's just like back in its time. But
I feel that
for sure.
I feel that
because
watching.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. I just wanted to comment on that before I forget, because with the whole part with the last part where the mom who gave birth leaves, logic was out the door. He was just doing the most. you know.
Yeah, like it wasn't just enough to make the 12 person four times. He also had to put barbed wire, and like it's actually, when you think about it, it's funny. It's like, how hard were you trying? You know, like, I don't know. I would have to revisit that one for sure. And I don't know. October time is a good time to do it. So maybe maybe.
And I liked the fact that, like, with the Human Centipede 2 at the end, we just cut to him again watching the end of that film. So it's kind of a suggestion that the whole thing was just a fantasy anyway. That didn't actually go down. And that's why it was so over the top, you know?
Otherwise known as Eli Roth at home.
Yeah. What's your third pick, Grande?
I got another really, really under talked about one that I really love ever since the first time I saw it. And I had always loved this filmmaker, whether it be May from 2002 or The Woods from 2006. I just love Lucky McKee's cinema. And to me, this was one of his best. It is The Woman from 2011. And this is, I think, a really, really good, disturbing movie in and of the fact that, of course, on the cover, we have the woman covered in blood and blood on guts in her hands and stuff. But she's really not the monster of the movie. The movie is about this family that basically is run pretty horribly by the father character in the movie. He's just this evil, he's very misogynistic, very mean. He's teaching his son to kind of grow up like him. And one day he finds this woman, wild in the forest, and he captures her, takes her down to the cellar, and basically treats her as if she's the family pet. And uses her for all sorts of sexual favors and, brutally beats her. And it's a disturbing film for sure. And I think what was so brilliant about it, though, was the way that Lucky McKee depicted the horrors. And not all monsters come from the wild. Some of them wear three-piece suits because by day, he's this successful businessman in an office and, dressed all suave and sophisticated. By night, he's mistreating this woman that he found in the wild. And there's some really, really disturbing sequences in it. But I will say, this is one I will spoil a little bit to give people some hope. The finale where the woman gets out and all hell breaks loose and everybody gets their comeuppance. Yeah. Oh my goodness. It is worth every minute you have to wait to get to that because it is so satisfactory. If you love Hall & Oates, you love that song Man Eater. Oh my goodness. The Woman is the perfect movie for you. I almost wish they could have afforded to have that song in the movie somehow. But one of my faves, really always watch this one. For some reason, actually around like November time. This is like a Thanksgiving horror movie for me. I don't know why, maybe because of all the gut munching, but
when the family gets together, The Woman.
Yeah, right. Pass the hors d'oeuvres over here. I'm going to watch The Woman today.
It's either this or Thanksgiving. All right, you take your pick. Come on.
Flip a coin.
Yeah, it's actually the second film of a trilogy, and Darlin is the third film, which I also like. I like, both The Woman and Darlin. Haven't seen Offspring just yet, but the third film is a good follow-up to The Woman.
And it's cool, it's directed by her. Pollyanna McIntosh, the woman that plays the woman, ends up directing the third movie. So it's really cool. Here she gets to be the lead. I don't know. You can't really call her a monster. Well, she's a monster, but I don't know if she's the antagonist or the protagonist. I don't know. But she's awesome. I think that's, I love Pollyanna McIntosh in this.
Yes, and Bettis was great in it too, as the wife. Just everybody on that cast was great. It was
Sean Bridgers. I forget the daughter's name. She's fantastic as always. Lauren Ashley Carter.
You guys said it was. You said it was the second one as like part of a trilogy. So are these standalone stories or are they like interconnected?
They can be.
Yeah, so all three of them basically have the woman in them.
Okay.
She's not much in the first or the third one. Like, this is really her movie. Okay. Is this one. And to me, it's by far the best of those three. Like, Darlin becomes very religious for some reason. Like, they go to I don't know. The third one was weird. And then Offspring is just this with like not a lot of money. So if you want to see this one done, I think this is the best of the three for sure.
I was going to ask too, like between both of you, is that like the best?
I would say so.
Yeah.
Of the two that I've seen. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Very good. Very good. All right, Dice, what is your third pick?
My favorite from 2021 that I thankfully somehow managed to avoid like all the trailers for this. At this point, I've kind of done that anyway, but I avoided the trailers for it. I avoided pretty much everything for it except for a few little key things, and it ended up being my favorite for the year. And that's The Black Phone. The Black Phone is very interesting for a multitude of different reasons that I've already kind of mentioned in my review of it. But one is that it took place in Colorado. I was born and grew up in Colorado. My parents grew up in the same time frame as the events of the film. True crime is very heavy in this. Serial killer John Wayne Gacy is a very heavy theme in this, but it's child abduction by this traumatizing as hell figure played by Ethan Hawke. And you get to see from the perspective of this kid and his younger sister what that whole situation entails. And there's this very real threat that he might not get out of this. He could be the next victim. But because it's created based on a story by the son of Stephen King, we have the canon psychic, and that adds an interesting supernatural element. I was not expecting supernatural, but I think it works very well for this. It's a nice mechanic for the plot.
This one I actually liked a whole lot. I'm happy to hear that it was one of your recommendations. I've been meaning to see this one again. I wanted to rewatch this one with my wife too because I think she would like it. It's a solid little horror movie. You're right. Yeah, right. Maybe it isn't for everybody, but I thought this one was really good. And I don't know. I feel like I don't get this. Maybe it's just me. I haven't seen Ethan Hawke play the villain a lot. I'm sure maybe he has, but I feel like this is the only one I've seen him play a villain. I'm probably forgetting a big one. But anyway, I thought he was really good in this. And I also did like those supernatural elements. I was also able to avoid a lot of the trailers and spoilers, which I think is the best way to go into this one. And then you just take it as it comes, and it unfolds very nicely. And I love this one. It's a great pick. I recommend it as well.
Nice. Very good. Very good. How about you, John?
I actually haven't seen this one, so unfortunately I can't comment. I apologize.
Yeah.
I don't want to really spoil anything because it is something that, like you said, you have to kind of watch it as it unfolds. But there is mystery elements. The ending, I will say, is very satisfying.
Yes.
So we'll go with that. And there's a twist. This one always gets people, I've noticed. The twist after that really causes people to go, no shit. Are you serious the whole time? Okay. So.
All right. Awesome. Very good. All right, Anthony, how about your third pick?
All right, my third pick. I'm surprised that neither of these movies have come up just yet, but Terrifier 2. I'm going to go with from 2022. I could have just as well put Terrifier 1 in here. Directed by Damien Leone, resurrected by a sinister entity, Art the Clown returns to Miles County to terrorize a teenage girl and her younger brother on Halloween night, appropriately enough for this stream. This was another one that just went all out in terms of gore and the horror and the effects. But what I found to be most disturbing about this was the scene that comes at about the midpoint. You guys probably know the scene I'm talking about, where the girl, Art, there's basically a home invasion, and Art takes his time with one of his victims. Let's just put it that way. And then I think what really, he tortures the girl. I'm not going to go into too much detail.
You might call it assault.
Yeah. You know what really got me?
Good. Yeah.
Spoiler. I like that. A spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't seen the second Terrifier yet. When the girl's mother comes home is when it really gets even more disturbing to me, because she has this horrific sight of what's left of her daughter. So Terrifier 2, that's my pick. Although I'll slip in an honorable mention for Terrifier 1 at this point. For the first Terrifier, because that had also multiple scenes that were similar. But this one felt particularly good to it. But part of the I think part of the key aspect of the Terrifier movies and a lot of and other horror films we see is that there's always this need to. We see it with the Human Centipede movies too, where they have to go farther. They have to push the envelope even more and more and more. So in terms of Terrifier 3, wow, I can imagine what we're in for.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited for the third film. Love the first two. Not super excited that it's set during Christmas, but we'll see what he'll do. You know, maybe he'll just ruin that holiday for a lot of folks. And that'll be great, you know?
I ended up liking Terrifier 2 more than Terrifier.
Oh, really? Okay.
We got characters who had depth. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Sure. More money for sure. Definitely a bigger budget.
Sienna is, I believe, one of my favorite final girls, to be quite honest. So
there you go. How about you, Grande? What are your feelings about this one?
I liked it. I think from a disturbing standpoint, I actually would lean towards the first one just because of how like midnight movie it felt and how small. Like it was way more gritty and way more, like shorter. Whereas this one, it was 2.5 hours. It's like, let's make it the Ben-Hur of slasher movies. It's 2.5 hours. We're gonna assault people. It's so over the top. I almost feel it's very similar actually to the Human Centipede 2, where he was like, you thought the first one was crazy. Yeah. Like I think they pushed the envelope so far that there's nowhere left to push it. So, you know, I don't know. It's definitely fun. I think the thing I noticed when I saw it in the theater was people just embracing a new icon that has come around the corner. And I think that's it's almost like Friday the 13th. Like it's just, let's have a fun time at the movies, turn our brains off. And like, that's what I see as Terrifier as. And hey, if you think about the gratuitous and, you know, drawn out kills that are purposely drawn out, there definitely is the disturbing element in that. So I thought it worked. I thought it was a fun movie in the theater for sure.
Hell yeah. Love it. Cannot wait.
Can't wait for the popcorn buckets for 3.
Did they do popcorn buckets for 2?
No, they didn't. But with everybody doing popcorn,
I know they are now. Everybody.
I saw those alien ones going for like hundreds of dollars. I'm like, what? You have $100 to burn on alien popcorn bucket? Like, man,
not that serious, y'all.
Yeah,
everybody relax. Shit.
Well, we'll do my number 3 next, and that's going to be 2015's Baskin, a Turkish film directed by John Evernal. Anybody seen Baskin?
I've heard about it.
I have not. Sorry.
Ooh, you're going to love this one. So this is basically, so you've got a little bit of psychological thriller going on, and 5 cops in Turkey who have been called for backup to this place, and they're in this van. And, you know, for the first half of the film, there's just a lot of setup. We've got a lot of talking. We've got a lot of surrealism going on. And there's a lot of symbolism in here that's going to be hard to understand because it's a lot of Turkish folklore. And they basically arrive in hell and they just see this cult just covered in blood and viscera, eyes gouged out. Their heads are wrapped in like cloth to keep, I guess, from their heads from bleeding and stuff. And they're all just fucking each other, just doing the most. And you have basically the leader of the cult, the father, come and talk to all of them without really giving away too much. But the overarching message of this film basically is the fact that, you know, hell isn't a place that you go to, but it's within yourself, basically, which it resonates with me a little bit because when you think about God, you know, a lot of times people, you know, see God as a being in the sky or multiple gods, but I also like the idea of God being within yourself as well. And then this idea of hell and evil just being inherent within you as well, too, just as interesting. And so I think anybody can just take their own meaning from this film and make it their own, especially, too, if you're not familiar with Turkish culture or folklore. It's easy just to kind of interpret it in your own way. And I'm just waiting and ready for him to make his second film. So hopefully that happens soon, because this was 9 years ago now and he still hasn't done a second film. So I'm hoping, but I do follow him on Instagram and I think he is in pre-production for something new. So I'm super excited for that.
Very cool. That's awesome.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're getting down to the last 2. Let's move on to number 4. John, what is your 4th film?
My 4th film is one of my all-time favorite revenge movies, and it's one that I have just always loved ever since the first time I saw it. I know it's a big inspiration to Quentin Tarantino when he made Kill Bill. It's from the year 1971. It goes under a couple different titles, but my favorite, the only title to me, is They Call Her One Eye. Yes. They called her One Eye and ran for their lives. That's in the trailer. The guy says that in the trailer. It goes under also Thriller, A Cruel Picture, this is as badass as it gets. I mean, come on. Christina Lindbergh plays the lead here, and she basically plays this character that was assaulted as a child. And, of course, you know, she's mute throughout her whole life. And basically one day she's waiting for the bus to pick her up. She misses her bus, and this seemingly nice gentleman says, "Oh, I'll drive you to wherever you got to go." She doesn't say a word. "Oh, you know, instead of going where you ever need to go, I'll take you out to a nice dinner." He takes her out to a nice dinner and then goes back to his place, and she doesn't say anything. And basically, this guy is like a kind of drug lord and also runs a prostitution ring. So what he does is he captures people and like slowly gets them addicted to heroin so they can't like break the habit of doing the drug. Otherwise they'll die from the withdrawal. So they have to keep working from him in order to get their dose and whatever. And basically they have like one day off where they can go out into the world and do whatever they want to do. And instead of calling for help, they call her One Eye, and she starts learning karate and how to drive a car and combat. And it's an incredible movie how this woman just kind of, you know, learns the revenge skills, and then they take effect at the end when she runs around with a shotgun. But to me, the most disturbing scene in this movie is how she becomes a one-eyed woman. She's, of course, you know, dealing with a customer in the rink, and basically she doesn't want to do anything with him, and he's this bitch. He goes out running, screaming, rambling, and the lead guy comes in with a scalpel, and he goes, you're gonna have to be punished for this. And he pokes her eye out with the scalpel. And the reason it's so disturbing is they used an actual corpse. So the shot of the eye being taken out is a real eye. And they of course suffered a lot of legal action and stuff like this. It was just a corpse that I guess they knew a friend that was, you know, worked in a morgue somewhere, and they were like, "Hey buddy, I'll give you $20. You want to come?" So yeah, it's a pretty disturbing scene, and some of the sexual scenes are very graphic and, you know, uncut depending on what version you watch. I know that I think this is the uncut version of it. So yeah, that's if you want to see that. But it's a fun movie. I always loved it. I always thought that the lead, Christina Lindbergh, her character's name is Frigga, which is friggin' awesome to me. Like, I don't know. I love Frigga, so I love this movie. Thriller, Cool Picture, aka the only title. They call her One Eye. Badass movie, but disturbing.
Yeah, I saw this one, or I found it on Apple, definitely on the list. And it took me a while to find it, and then I realized that it had that second name. So yeah, definitely excited to check it out. And you can totally see how Quentin Tarantino was inspired, for sure. Nobody else saw it either?
I apologize for picking such obscure movies.
No, this is wonderful. All right. What's your fourth pick, Dice?
My fourth pick, which has become a little bit more mainstream, I think, as well as another one that's usually brought up in the same breath as this one, but I find this one to be far more disturbing, and that is Hereditary.
Oh, yeah. Love me some Hereditary.
Yes.
A24.
Family. So this is what happens when you don't talk to or associate with some of your family members. You know, it's probably a good thing. It's very interesting because initially I didn't fully grasp what they were trying to talk about with this. So it took me another watch or two to really go, oh, okay, got it. Cult. Bad magic stuff going on here. Demonic okay. All right. We don't want to reveal too much. I'm sure many people have already seen this. This is almost mainstream at this point, I imagine. But I think that the one scene that is usually pointed out as being quite disturbing, understandably so, is head meets telephone pole. And it's not just that scene, it's everything after. And I know that the brother usually gets a lot of shit. Like, how could he just drive? He's in shock. What else is he gonna do? Stop there, stand there by the side of the road, look at his sister's head on the side of the road? I don't think so. But then, of course, you have tremendous acting by Toni Collette, as usual, in When She Finds What Remains of Her Daughter. So, yeah.
Yes, Toni.
Is it family portraits after that?
Probably not going to happen. Yeah, this movie is definitely unsettling, and that click just always just gets under my skin. And Toni Collette is just a powerhouse. Love watching her in literally everything, but just her fear and her screaming face is just always chilling. Just always stops me in my tracks. I'm just like, yes, girl, get that shit.
Work. Okay.
I would say just real quick, one thing about the telephone pole scene. I'm glad I was spoiled on that. Because I feel like that would have been rough to just be blindsided by. No awful pun intended. That my God, it's just a rough scene, and like Dice mentioned, there's the aftermath of that scene with the remains being discovered, and then later on there's another shot of the head, with bugs and stuff. It's really grisly stuff, but there's lots of horrific imagery throughout that movie. But that scene in particular is bad. But for the purposes of like a stream like this and a discussion like this, that one almost made my list as well too. Yeah, it's a brilliant pick for something like this, for a subject like this.
Yeah.
I unfortunately, you can cut this out. I really don't like Hereditary at all, so I don't want to say anything bad about it. I think the ending is very funny. I'll say that
it's funny.
Oh, was this one of the things? Did you have a rant on this one too, or no?
Oh yeah, I lost quite a few people because I read.
Oh no!
You lost what?
Sure, yeah.
Sometimes people get
popular. Like I said at the end, the kid in the treehouse with all the naked old ladies. I was like he's wearing the Burger King crown, and I made fun of it, and people were like, "You just don't get it." I was like, "That's fine. That's fine."
Yeah,
that's what I was saying. I thought all of that stuff was pretty disturbing too. There's lots of, the head scene is the most disturbing thing, at least to me. But there's lots of stuff just throughout that's just creepy as hell.
I don't know. It didn't,
but it didn't resonate.
Yeah.
You feel like it was trying too hard? I'm just curious for you.
I don't know. It just didn't. I think I was told going in how disturbing it was. And a lot of it I just thought was so over the top. Like when she's banging her head on they made it fast. It looks like a paddle ball. I was like, I laughed, and the whole "I am your mother." But I'm sorry, you can edit that out. I apologize.
No, it's actually very funny that you mentioned that, especially the her banging her head against the attic door part, because my brother, who is not a horror fan, he will willingly tell you that, said that made him laugh. And he wants to make an edit of it where there's some heavy metal music playing or something.
There you go.
I'm so down to see that. I would love to see that.
Oh shoot!
So it's not a comment. There's some amusing, but likely not intentionally amusing scenes.
Yeah.
In that. But maybe that's just because we're fucked up.
Yeah.
All right. How about you, Anthony? What is your fourth pick?
Oh wow, we're up to 4 already. All right. So number 4 for me, I am going with. This is going to be a pretty mainstream one, but Eli Roth, Hostel 2005. So.
Yeah.
This film follows a group of American tourists as they end up in Slovakia, where they are eventually taken one by one by an organization that allows people to torture and kill others. Yes, it's me again discussing torture. The theme of this stream at this point. So this was the first Hostel movie. I feel like I think I've seen I think I've seen the other ones, but this is the one that really resonated with me the most. And it might even be the same for others. I'm not sure. But it's definitely the first that I saw in that wave of horror that kind of hit in the early 2000s. And I think it's one of the better of the bunch. I feel like it was, I don't know if I can necessarily call it like restrained in terms of like the gore and the effects, but I definitely think that it had a lot of impact. And maybe it's just a personal thing because it's the first film I saw that pushed things that far in terms of like gore and blood and all of these just horrible things going on, that it really hit me. But I also found that I just sort of was into the story more than I thought I would have been. Like this could have been played completely schlocky, and maybe to some people it is. But to me, I actually took it pretty seriously, and I was rooting for somebody to survive this nightmare. I don't want to spoil too much in case maybe there's somebody who has.
Nah, you can spoil the film a little bit. Oh, you haven't seen it? Oh, okay.
I haven't seen any of the Hostel films, but I know about.
I will say, I mean, at least for me, I enjoyed this one, and I do recommend at least the first one. And I think the film does at least a good enough job getting you into the characters just enough that you're rooting for them to get out of this horrific situation, or at least one survivor. So this would be my pick for number 4, right? Yeah, disturbing.
Yeah, because Saw came out, fell in love with that, and I was like, holy shit, we're going to get Hostel the next year. Love that. So, yeah, and the story was also interesting. It wasn't just, and same with Saw, it wasn't just to be gory and bloody. It was a cool little story that they put together and concept.
Yeah, I definitely like those two go together too. Like, I guess it would be like a nice marathon watch between the two of those. Saw is easily the better to me. Like if you're going to compare those, I think it makes for an interesting comparison. But yeah, in terms of just being disturbing, for some reason, Hostel works for me on that level more so.
Yeah. How about you, Grande?
I'm so sorry to make this a trend. I don't really like Hostel very much.
No, but I think you're not the biggest Eli Roth fan. I think so.
I can't stand Eli Roth.
So fair enough. I knew that. I was thinking, I'm like, oh, that one might come up. Oh, but it is what it is ultimately, you know.
That movie is just, he wrote 3 versions of himself, like 3 horny versions of himself. I don't know. I can't get into that movie at all. I just
How about even just the basic concept of it? I'm just curious if it works for you, at least on that level. Like,
I mean, sure, the whole idea. I just think the characters are just too stupid. Like, it's just like you would go there to try to get laid. Like, but I don't know. It's just very odd. They're like, oh, this is great. I don't know. I just think it's just kind of silly. Like, I guess the whole idea of
rich people, though, paying to like fuck people up. That's interesting, though, right?
Is that in the first one, though? Or I thought that was
not in the first one?
I believe it is. Again, it's been a little while since I've seen this, but I could have sworn that was at least an element of it, that it was people who were a little more wealthy and they could afford to do this.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we could check into it just so we don't give out incorrect information.
Yeah, I remember the second one. It's like there's a bunch of rich people on like a golf course, and they're like, "I just paid $2 million to kill someone." I was like, "Cool, bro." I don't know. Maybe it's just me. I do agree. It's scary that those things exist. Like the idea. I don't know. The execution though didn't scare me that much. But I respect it. I totally do.
Okay, so that was your number 4. My number 4 is The Sadness from 2021 from China, directed by Rob Jabez. And so in this film, everybody's seen this film, right?
I actually haven't.
Okay. Wow. Okay. So in this film, we have people who are being infected by the Alvin virus, which basically...
I knew it. Chipmunk. Right.
Which basically...
It's Alvin! Yep. You have to do that.
I don't know why they called it that, though. Yeah, just a weird name.
Alvin!
But once you are infected, you just become sadistic. You want to kill everything inside, and you want to do it in the most fucked up way. Your eyes become black, your face becomes distorted, your teeth become rotten looking, and you're also crying. And you're crying because you still have a part of your brain that knows what you're doing is wrong, but you can't stop yourself. It's almost like, not blinking, telling yourself not to blink because it'll kill the person next to you. And it's just impossible. They have to do the most depraved thing to the person next to them until they're dead. And so you see the breakout happen. And the very first, act of violence we see is this woman at this cafe, and she dumps boiling oil, grease onto this man, and she just starts clawing at his face to just rip all of that shit off. And so then I can't remember exactly how they're infected, but I think just once you're injured or make eye contact with an infected person, you also become infected. And so then other people in the cafe just start attacking each other. And then the one guy who's the main character. So at the beginning of the film, we see this couple and he drops her off wherever he drops her off. And basically the whole film is them trying to get back together. And romance horror is just my favorite thing. And this is romance torture. It's really sad. And the ending is satisfying and very sad at the same time. And the movie just definitely lives up to its name. I absolutely love it. But I will never make my husband watch it. If he watches it, he will be so disturbed and upset with me. So yeah, he won't ever be watching this movie.
Whoa. Okay, I got a couple questions. Number one, just eye contact, you get infected?
I think so. It's either because I saw because the first incident with the main character, he gets attacked and his fingers are chopped off, but he's not infected yet. And then in other times, people are getting attacked, and after they're attacked, they're infected. So it's either by getting attacked or some kind of eye contact or skin contact, but it happens instantly, you know?
That's terrible. I think that's a great idea, because usually it's you have to get bit, or your blood has to, you know, that's eye contact. Jeez. I mean, there's no escaping that.
Introverts everywhere are going, I'm good.
Let me ask you this, though. What about it makes it off limits for you to watch with your spouse? Like, where's the line there? I'm curious.
So here's another scene I'll describe for you. So one girl gets her eye taken out by one guy. So this is the third eye removal on our list. The first one was Baskin, then the movie that you were talking about, Anthony. And then in this movie, homegirl gets her eye taken out. Yep. Oh, yeah, your movie. And this girl, though, after her eye's been taken out, another guy ends up having fun with her in his own way with his willy in her eye socket.
Whoa! All right, I think that is the line for spouse. Yeah.
We have found the line. Excellent.
There it is. Write it down.
All right, so we are down to our last movie, y'all. You ready?
I'm ready. Let's do this. There's no eye gouging in this one, so sorry to disappoint you all in advance. But this is absolutely, in my opinion, the most disturbing movie ever made. And for me, it's not even close. And it's not really gratuitous. I think the brilliance of it is it's the opposite. You don't really see hardly any of the violence or anything of that nature in this particular film. It's from the year 1997, directed by Michael Haneke. This is Funny Games. Yes, Funny Games.
Yeah.
I will never forget the first time I watched this movie. I stayed up really late one night. It was like 3 a.m, and this little movie called Funny Games came on the TV. And I was like laying down, watching, speaking of eyes, one eye open. I was kind of laying on the pillow. And I'm watching this movie, and it's a family. They go to their summer vacation house, and these two neighbor kids, they're like, you know, late teens, early 20s. They ask for, hey, can we borrow some eggs? We're making a cake. And from that moment on, this movie just builds, and escalates with its tension as these two kids break into this house and pretty much psychologically damage this family. It is really hard movie to watch. Like it's again, it's not what you see, but it's all psychological. And the thing that absolutely put it over the top for me as the most disturbing is there's fourth wall breaking in it. There's a few scenes where the killers turn to the screen and go, "What do you think? Do you think they'll make it to dawn? Do you think I'll get like?" I remember I was like watching when I leaned up. I was like, "Am I dreaming this? Is he talking to me?" I freaked out when that happened. I was like, I remember for the rest of it, I watched it like I was in a catcher's position. I was like, just like, what the heck? I was just squatting watching this movie. I'm like, holy cow, what is going on? And it's, I think, one of the most disturbing movies ever made. In my book, it's number one. So if you haven't seen this, I can't recommend it enough. It will disappoint if you want the gore galore. There's a lot of other movies that, you know, we've batted around here tonight that I would watch over this. But man, if you really want the psychological damage, I mean, I would look no further than this bad boy right here. Funny Games.
Yeah, they have that one scene where it's just uncut 10 minutes of the wife and husband just sitting in what just happened and them just trying to move past it and seeing their pain and their strife and her struggling to help the both of them get free is just so gut-wrenching, because you also know that there's so much more of the film left, and even though they're alone, they're not going to be alone for much longer. you know? And it was just done so well. I love it.
Yeah, they really drew that scene out to make you feel it. Like, it's not just, okay, edit away, you know, grieve, whatever, move on. They really, they linger on it. And that really disturbed me. I was like, oh my gosh, like I could not imagine the emotions and the thoughts. And the acting in it is like Oscar worthy, in my opinion. The lead villain in it, he's so good. Like, there's a cool little press conference on this Blu-ray where this Asian woman, they were doing like a Q&A. She went, "Sir, I don't have a question, but you scared the hell out of me." Like this tiny lady. I was like, that lady's my hero, because that's exactly what I was thinking, you know. And she had the courage to say that in this big room of people. And I don't know, it's a great flick.
sad to know that of the 4 lead characters, 3 of them are dead. You know, the film was an actual couple in real life, and the wife actually unalived herself 5 years after her husband had died of cancer, and then the other antagonist, I forget why he passed.
He overdosed, I think. So
yeah, super sad.
Yeah, really sad. It's like a cursed movie now. The only person left is the kid and the lead villain who scared the hell out of me. Arno Furch is his name, and I hope I never encounter him because he scared the hell out of me.
Yeah.
So I think it plays with your brain a lot, and I kind of appreciated that, and I thought it really was dark in a good way. So definitely one to watch.
Awesome. Very good. All right. And what is your last film, Dice?
My last film might be cheating ever so slightly because it's not technically considered horror, but I think that's terribly subjective. It's in a parallel category anyway, but I think it has a lot of cross-contamination there. Especially
thriller. It's thrillerish. Yeah.
Yeah, depending on your perspective. Like, especially if you're a parent, this is horror. And it's one that I watched maybe at most like a week ago, because I've been going through the filmography of David Dastmalchian, and he was in this briefly. But I watched it, and that is Prisoners from 2013. This is one I was aware of before, and it seemed interesting, but maybe not enough to really grab my attention. But being the hyper-fixated ADHD person that I am, David Dastmalchian really sold me watching it, and I thought it was terribly disturbing because of how real it is. Like, it has theoretically a happy ending, but you don't know if there will be all the way.
Yes, there will be. Don't say that. Yeah. There will be.
Of course, yeah. You get like whiplash from the different twists that there are, because for 1 minute you're like, well, shit, everything's up, it's over, but why is there so much of the movie left? What are we doing here? And
yes, it was so long
way, and you're like, oh, fuck, but it's not completely great. Okay, what do we do now? So the acting is tremendous from everybody: Hugh Jackman, Jake Gyllenhaal, everybody, big and small parts. And I like to think that there are times where I can see, okay, it's this person who's doing it, or this is what's going to happen. I had no goddamn idea throughout the whole thing. 1 minute I thought, oh no, it's going to be him. Oh, it's not him. Well, what? Oh, okay.
It is him. No, it's not him. It is him.
Oh, it's actually, oh, fuck. But and then you watch it again and you're like, oh, there was a clue. Okay. Just, you've got the whole idea of, like, your kids, they've been kidnapped and you don't know where they are, and you have such a limited time frame to figure out what happened. If they aren't already dead, they will be soon. And in doing so, I think that Denis Villeneuve, he did quite good in showing us how far just an average person is willing to go to try to save someone's kids. Because sitting back as the audience, you're like, yeah, I could never do that. But then you put yourself in their shoes and you're like, well, maybe.
You have Paul Dano playing one of the creepy guys, and he's just a great creepy guy. He's been in a lot of movies as the creepy guy. There Will Be Blood. He was also the brother in Little Miss Sunshine, little awkward guy. So him, in this situation, being a little kooky is really fun.
My buddy Paul has been telling me to watch that movie for years, and I just haven't got around to it. I've got to give it a watch. And that being number one on your list, that makes it really exciting. I'm just going to have to just watch this movie now. Like, another one, should I just buy the Blu-ray of it, or is this?
It's good for a blind buy.
I think it's worth a blind buy because, like I said, there's rewatchability to it, because you're probably not going to catch everything first time around, and you watch it again and you're like, oh shit, well, that was obvious. Okay.
Anthony, so what is your last pick?
All right. So, yes, my number one pick is from not that long ago, 2023, When Evil Lurks.
Yes.
All right. So this one, yeah, I'm hyped to talk about this one. And I know you're a fan of this one as well, right? Two brothers accidentally unleash a demon into the countryside that can possess people and make them do terrible things. So although that sounds like a sort of very basic premise, my God, does it work? It works so well throughout this movie. I was a big fan of this. It was sort of like a pleasant surprise. Lots of people had recommended it to me. And sometimes when a lot of people recommend things to you, you kind of get hyped up and then you inevitably get let down. This was not the case for this movie. What I liked about this one was that it definitely pushed the envelope, though not in a sense where like I had to like turn it off. I was like, oh, this is just it's just exploitation or it's gratuitous. This one felt like it was natural and it belonged there, and the violence and the brutality were very fitting for the story. But I also like that it's combining elements of. We have like possession in here. We almost have like this. There's a sense that it's almost treated like a virus, which is something post pandemic we all kind of feel. So it's playing on all of those kinds of things. And despite the fact that I watched it with subtitles, it worked totally fine for me. I found myself completely engaged by the story. I couldn't have watched it any other way, like with like an English translation or anything like that. And I do recommend watching it that way. I feel like that's the way it's meant to be seen if you don't have to speak the language. But so this is my number one most disturbing movie. There's some pretty brutal scenes in here that I would say that do involve children, unfortunately, and I think that's what probably tips it toward the edge to me for making it like one of the more disturbing films. Although again, it's done. This stuff, the horror, and this is done in a tasteful enough way, and it's again, it doesn't really feel like just needlessly graphic or over the top or anything like that. It's just well done. It's just a well done, and it's just an excellent horror film. Probably the best I'd say of 2023, at least for me. For horror.
Yeah, I'd say the same for me for 2023.
Yeah,
sure.
That's what I hear a lot. Ken Sage highly recommends that, so I'm like,
you still haven't seen it?
I know, but listen, if you saw my watch list, you would faint. Okay.
So well, in that case, I'm glad I didn't spoil too much. I don't know that there's necessarily too much to spoil in this. There's just enough insanity throughout that even if I did
an
spoil
experience.
Yeah, it is. Exactly. This is another one of those things. It's more of an experience, the film.
All right. So my last pick is also a film that isn't going to give you a whole lot of gore or blood or anything like that, but it's just the idea of what's going on. That's a trip. And that is Dumplings from 2004, Korean film directed by Fruit Chan.
That's not a cereal? What?
Not a cereal anybody would want.
So you've seen this one, Grande?
Yes, I've seen Dumplings. Dumplings is awesome.
Yes. So we have this actress or this one-time actress who is married to a wealthy man, and she's getting older naturally, but she wants to look younger. So in an effort to do that, she finds Aunt May, a dumpling cook, who is able to basically help you become young or look younger. And she does this by making dumplings. But the special ingredient in the dumplings to do that is fetuses. The special ingredients are fetuses.
Kind of chewy.
Yes. There is one scene where you can see that they do have a chewy texture when she's cutting them up and putting them into the dumplings. Yes.
Oh, jelly babies. Oh.
So Miss Lee, the lead character here, at first is repulsed by it, but she is so desperate to look youthful again that she goes back and begins to eat the dumplings, and she's asking for more potent dumplings, which means that the fetus has to be a little bit older. So she's wanting to just push the envelope even more, each time she's eating these dumplings. We just see basically our lead character just get greedy with it. She's even starting to smell a little bit, but she, allows the stink to be there just in order to look beautiful again. She's got her husband on the other hand who's cheating on her, so she's trying to win him back, and we've got that whole dynamic going. But then toward the end, Miss Lee, our lead character, kind of has to start taking things into her own hands in order to keep eating these dumplings, because she and the cook aren't going to be friends forever. And so when we get to that end, we just know we have a new start, which I would love to have a Dumplings 2. That was just a perfect setup for a sequel, which I would love to see.
Hell yeah. I would agree. It's an awesome pick. And I didn't see that coming. That was a really good pick at number one. I think, too, another thing about it, it's the horrors of one feeling undesirable anymore. And that's, I think, the true key to that movie is her husband is cheating on her. She's, still is, even though she's getting older, she's a beautiful lady inside and out. And it's her pressure on the inside I need to conform and I need to be youthful again and desirable again. And I think that was the whole social commentary of it. It's the pressure that men and women alike feel when they feel undesirable, and what if you could just eat this magical dumpling that, it's going to make my skin not have wrinkles and I'm going to look beautiful. I'm going to get more jobs. My husband's going to want to come home and spend the night with me instead of some mistress. It's I think such a really good idea for a concept. And once you find out what's in those dumplings, I mean, I almost got sick when I first watched it. It's you can watch it two ways. It's in 3 extremes as a short, and it's a 40-minute version, and then you can watch the actual longer cut. I think it's an hour 40, maybe an hour,
something like that.
So there's a condensed version for anyone that doesn't feel like sitting through a 90-minute, 100-minute movie, whatever it is. Both work really effectively. Both are fantastic in what they have to say, and disturbing. You have everything in there. You got body horror, you got psychological horror, really good performances. You do have gore. You have the witch doctor cook named Aunt May, which that's just fantastic. I mean, I can't not think of the Spider-Man Aunt May.
Yeah. Fans everywhere are going...
No wonder Spider-Man never ages,
Well, no wonder Aunt May now looks the way she does.
Yeah, see, she's that lady's aging in reverse. I don't know. I think she's having a few dumplings for dinner. That's an awesome pick. Really, really. I'm actually jealous I didn't think of it. So awesome.
Oh. Well, those were all really great lists. So before we wrap up the video, let's go ahead, though, and just take about 30 seconds to talk about what we're doing on our channel, just to let the audience know. All right, we'll start here with Grande. What's going on over there on your channel?
Okay. On my channel, we have a bunch of fun things. I mean, Tales from the Dark Side, Season 3, reviewed and ranked. So that's going to be a lot of fun. I also plan to have some guests come on, some awesome, fun, spooky, spooktacular season here. So I'm looking forward to it. I usually do a Rocktober horror movie picks episode of the show. So if you guys want to subscribe, it's Grande's Graveyard. I don't know if it's in the info box or whatever, but obviously you can just type that in the search bar and sub up, and it's a lot of good vibes and good times only on the Graveyard.
Yes, love it. All right, Dice, how about you this spooky season? What do you got coming up?
Well, I was going through the Halloween franchise last year. I'm hoping to finish that this year at least 75%. Other than that, we'll see what kind of Halloween this season oriented stuff I shall do.
Awesome. Sounds cool.
Awesome. Sub Dice Rollen. I already did it.
Yeah.
That's true. And technically, this.
Oh, yeah.
Nobody recognizes Brian from Brain Damage with my custom Aylmer.
Yeah.
Nice. We're flanking. Cool. Oh my god.
Very nice. All right. What do you got going over there on your channel, Anthony?
Oh, hey, yes, my name is Anthony from Fever Dreamland Theater. And as always, Halloween is it's a fun time for us horror fans. And I will be once again diving into the Twilight Zone. So stop on by. I also have a ton of film reviews on 80s movies and 70s movies, horror mainly, of course. So yeah, you're welcome to stop by. I'm usually in the comment section and almost always say hello and what's up. It's a positive place and it's all good.
Yes. Please check out everybody's channel, Stardust. And if you like what you see, please subscribe. And there you have it, our list of some of our favorite disturbing movies. If you haven't checked them out, you'll definitely have a lot to catch up with this spooky season. All right, Stardust. Until next time, Peace.